right. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. It's a pleasure to have you on here and to have a quick chat with you. Yeah, so basically, we've invited you on just to have a bit of a chat, really. It's going to be about 20 minutes, just about your sort of what you're doing within the community and how you as a councillor, how much it's impacted you over the last few weeks. So yeah, if you could just give us a brief minute, really, of what you've been up to, really, and what you do within the community.
Yeah, so I've been a councillor for about a year, and the elections were obviously cancelled for this May. So I was expecting to be fighting a re-election campaign along with the other councillors, and sort of I think the scale of this crisis has took everyone by surprise, really. So from my perspective, I think what I've found really inspirational and what I see really clearly is the community coming together to do what it can to help people, and that includes both the council, in fairness, who I think have done an excellent job compared to a lot of councils in making sure people have got food and got enough electricity and all the rest of it if they've found themselves in a bad situation, but also the small business community, who I think have really stepped up and changed the way they work in a lot of ways completely. Whether that be the small cafes and restaurants, or whether that be a couple of businesses on the industrial estate which have changed the way they operate completely because of changing business demand, but also the needs of the community, and I think that's really impressive.
Definitely.
What I found myself doing is working with the other councillors, and what we're doing really is trying to make where there's loose connections or where things aren't happening, just to get them things to happen. So putting people in the right places, but also just stepping up where we can. So other councillors have volunteered, because a lot of them are over 70, have volunteered to call vulnerable people to make sure they're okay. And then I'm delivering food parcels every day. So I think
it's great to see that. I've noticed, obviously, on your personal social media pages as well, you going out there and delivering parcels, which is great for the community and shows sort of the leadership qualities you've got, really. So it's fantastic to see. How have you found that's gone within Salford and within Earlham and Cadishead, sort of the delivery of the parcels around the community?
Well, I've been quite surprised, actually. Every day there's around half a dozen of those food boxes going out. And then other people who have got special dietary requirements, or whether they've got babies that need a certain milk formula or something like that, then we've got volunteer shoppers going out for those. So it's more than only 6, really. There or thereabouts. But that's really low compared to a lot of areas in Salford. And I don't think it's anything special about the demographics in Earlham and Cadishead or anything like that. I think it's because that a lot of people, we've still got that community in a lot of ways that a lot of areas have missed. So people are checking on their elderly neighbours and making sure they're doing their shopping if they need it. I've already spoken about it a little bit, but there's a lot of new businesses actually as well that are producing food parcels at a really good price, and it's really good in a lot of ways that it's took demand off the council services, because the community is doing what it can to help each other. But in terms of Salford as a whole, which I've been involved with setting the Spirit Salford network up, it has got enormous demand. They're producing about 120, 140 a day going out across Salford.
That's brilliant. And how, with the sort of demand that you've got there, have you got enough people to sort of help with the packaging of the food? Have you got enough people to deliver parcels at the minute?
We was really, really overwhelmed at the beginning, because we knew sort of from the beginning, and we're talking about just before lockdown really, and that we knew, sorry, I'm getting notifications. We knew that this was coming in some ways, but we didn't know the scale that it was going to hit, and we didn't know quite the effect that it would have on our community, really. So we put an appeal out asking for volunteers, and within 48 hours, we had 650 volunteers come forward from across Salford. Probably around 100 or 150 of them, a big proportion were from Earlham and Cadishead. So we are managing, and I think it's been a frustration for a lot of people actually that we've not been able to find a voluntary role.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's only happened because of what people are already doing voluntarily and looking out for the neighbours and all the rest of it.
Yeah, because I've initially volunteered for the Spirit of Salford. I'm in the Earlham Caddies Head, the group at the minute. So it's picking up pharmaceuticals for people, doing people's shopping. But it has been really low. Like we're talking maybe every other day, but there's too many people within that group for you to maybe once every 2 weeks. I've only picked up one at the minute and delivered that out. But the amount of people who've put the names down or names forward for volunteering is absolutely fantastic, and you can see the community really has come together, and it's brought people a lot closer together. So it's sort of in particular with yourself as a councillor, how much has it impacted on your sort of day-to-day business as a councillor?
I think it's just changed everything really. So for example, this morning, one of my roles as a councillor is to sit on the council's planning panel.
Yeah.
So I've got a vote on proposed building of new houses and apartment blocks and businesses and whatever else people want to build in the city. And we just had a trial run this morning of how we can have those meetings online while still being able to support people that probably don't have as much access to technology as most of us have, to still be able to give representations and ringing on a landline to speak in a planning panel meeting where there's, you know, there could be 40 plus people watching as members of the public, and then there's the planning panel itself, which is about 25.
And do you think sort of going forward, the use of technology within sort of the council and within the government, do you think that's going to be used a lot more to sort of cut down people's travelling time and stuff like that?
I think it's got to, because I think what it's proved really is that not only is it an option, but actually it's better in a lot of ways. So there have been meetings that I don't have to go to, but that I want to go to, that I've been able to make for the first time in a very long time, because I've got a meeting, for argument's sake, that finishes at 6, and then I've got another meeting at 6:30 that would happen on the other side of the city or in Manchester city centre, and it would be impossible to commute between the two. And it's easy. It's much easier now, and I think it's got to change how we do things, I think, is the answer. I'm not sure if we know how exactly yet, but I feel that a lot of businesses are feeling that too, that there's a lot of wasted journeys and a lot of wasted time. And I think from this crisis that we've probably got a lot of lessons to learn, actually.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the quality of, especially Zoom and sort of Microsoft Teams and stuff like that, they've put a lot of effort into making sure the quality is good. Like the chatting between me and you now, there's no interruption. It's good quality. I can hear you well, you can hear me well. I think it works really well for at the minute. And I think people would be frustrated if it didn't work very well and they go back to the norm. But I think when things run smoothly, then that's why people want to use technology, knowing that it is going to work when they get on the computer and stuff. So
and I don't have it, but I've seen that Facebook have produced their own thing as well. I've seen it advertised everywhere, but I think that particularly for people that because this lockdown, it's made loneliness and isolation a thing for a lot of people. But it's actually made things worse for a lot of people that were already isolated and lonely. And I think what technology has proven is that in a lot of ways that we can keep in touch with people that we didn't think we could. And a lot of older people who who were probably my counterparts on the council in a lot of ways, that don't see themselves as some of them anyway, that maybe don't see themselves as technologically minded or whatever, and realising actually that it can be quite easy, and it can be quite easy to see the grandkids and make tea at the same time and be able to juggle everything, and it is possible. So I think there's a big opportunity there, not just for businesses but for people to connect as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it'll totally change the way we communicate with each other. I was speaking last week to Chris about sort of the email side of things and how much people hate emails, especially like your personal emails. You could have thousands sat on your iPhone in your bottom corner, and it's so irritating. I think that communication side of things now, emails probably going to be bottom of the pile. People will be jumping on Zoom calls now and people will be jumping on the phone a lot more, I think, to speak to each other rather than jump onto emails and waste hours of a day just going backwards and forwards with an idea. So sort of going forwards as a community, Earlham and Cadishead, how do you think we're going to come out of this long term? What can you see the future of Earlham and Cadishead being once we come back to normal life?
I think it very much depends on and a little bit of this is political, but actually it's looking at what the reality of the situation will be coming out of this, in that we're seeing everyday businesses saying that they're not going to be able, or some businesses saying that they're not going to be able to reopen after this. Not yet I've heard of any examples in Earlham and Cadishead, and I'm not scaremongering or anything like that, but we are seeing ones that perhaps do employ people from Earlham and Cadishead, particularly in retail or in travel, where people are losing their jobs now, and others are saying that they're going to have to scale back operations, or saying that, as I said, they won't be able to reopen in the same way as they were operating before. So I'm not sure we know exactly what's going to happen, but what we do know is that our community, a lot of people do work in those key sectors, in retail, in hospitality. We know that a lot of people, not a lot of people, but a lot of the development that's set to take place, particularly around the AJ Bell Stadium, in terms of either manufacturing or aspirations around retail and hospitality, we're not quite sure, or I'm not quite sure, how quickly those schemes are going to restart when we're seeing such dramatic things happening in the economy and in the wider country. And I think we're all hoping for the best, that the impact isn't going to be too great, but if it is, I think that's what we've got to plan for. And it sort of goes back to what we were saying before about, at the beginning of this crisis, we didn't know how big it was, so we was asking for anyone who wanted to volunteer to come forward, and we didn't meet demand. I think we've got to prepare for the absolute worst and hope for the best.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, sort of going back, it's been like 12 years since the last economic crash, and that was something to do with the investment bankers and people like that. It was out of our control, and again, this is it's totally out of our control, but it's affected every single business, restaurants, manufacturers, everybody. But people have had to look at how they can adapt now as well. How they can change, can they go more technology driven? And I think it's sort of businesses who are able to can look at the way they're running things, and how they can sort of change the way their business is run, especially sort of your customer based businesses, like your food businesses. I've seen a lot of positives coming from local businesses like the Algarve in Cadishead. They've gone to takeaway. Mambo's in Earlham, again, they've gone to takeaway. Same with Mothie. There's a lot of food businesses who have sort of seen different aspects of their business, which they'll probably continue to do further down the line as well. I know I had a chat with I forgot his name now, the guy who runs Mambo's, and he was saying that they never even thought of doing takeaway at all previously when they were open, but now he said, when they reopen the restaurant, they probably will look to keep some sort of takeaway service going, which is good for their business and good for the community as well, really.
I think there's some lessons to take out of that, really, in that we're going back to 2008 and going forward to whatever is going to be the world when we all leave our houses again, is that we do actually have some control over that and have some control over local jobs, and that's by doing what a lot of us have been doing now, and a lot of us were doing before, in fairness, and that is changing our shopping habits and going to the local businesses. If you can avoid going to Amazon, then avoid them, and watch where you spend your pounds, because when we all want the area to do well, and we do that by shopping locally and putting money in local people's pockets that are spent in the local pubs and in the other shops. And I think that's what we've got to do in a lot of ways if we want to build resilience in our community, to make sure that our business community fares it best. But I'm not a business owner, I'm not an expert in business, but I do know that the more people that shop locally, it's only going to help.
Yeah, of course it is. And you've seen we've posted about the greengrocers this morning. That's opening next week at the old Rowan Daniels shop, which is shown like from adversity how somebody, a business owner, has sort of grown from it, and they've opened their own shop. And I think we will go back to once everything's back open as normal. I think we will go back to more community focused stuff, and people want to be using greengrocers and butchers. And I know Brave. What's it called? The butchers at Burt Whistles. That's the one. Burt Whistles. They've been inundated with people going visiting there. I've seen queues outside there. People using them. I know they're a catering business, but again, that might be something that they look further down the line of opening local butchers for people to start using again. And it goes back to sort of the days of sort of the 60s, 70s, 80s, even the 1990s, where your gran and granddad would go to the butchers and go to the greengrocers and get the local food produced. And it's great to see it's actually being produced in the area as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the older members of our community, they've seen Earlham and Cadishead in decline, and have seen it be built up again over the last few years, particularly along just sort of driving through in the I don't want to say the street scene, but how the area looks and how it feels. And I think what happens in a crisis, and whether that be in our own families or whatever, is that we want to protect those that are closest to us. And I think in this crisis where it's affecting the whole country, I think it's right that our community wants to protect itself, and we do that by supporting Burt Whistles and those other bit of Mambos when they're changing the way that they operate, and going and supporting them. And I think it is fantastic. And
definitely. And it's good for like the community of Earlham and Cadishead. We've always sort of been quite reluctant for the sort of big brands to come into our area. I know we've got like your Tesco and Lidl, you need your supermarkets, but we haven't got like your Costas and your Starbucks and places like that. You know, we've got the local cafes, and we've got they're supplying the community, and it's good to see that we're not being overtaken by these big international brands. So I think when we come out of this at the end, people will be shopping a lot more local. They're going to go to Tesco to get the bits, but it'd be nice to see people utilising the greengrocers and the butchers, and even like the corner shops. They've been inundated. I live in Cadishead, and the Anvil, they've been absolutely fantastic over the last few weeks. They've always had eggs in, and they've had bread, you know, your basic stuff that the supermarkets didn't have initially. They had them in the local shops. And I was talking to a local corner shop owner. He said he had to go to 9 different cash and carries, and he only got 3 loaves of bread. Like, they're putting the effort in to make sure that they are supplying the community.
Yeah, and I guess we're going to come on to the about people going out and realising what is in Earlham and Cadishead in terms of walking and discovering what we've got. But it's also the same with businesses. I imagine when at the beginning of this, when there was mad rushes at Tesco's and Asda in Trafford and Lidl's and wherever people were shopping, and not being able to get their essentials. And I think a lot of people, probably for the first time, stepped foot in the local shop to get the bread and milk or whatever they couldn't get in the supermarkets. And I think a lot of people will be discovering or rediscovering what is on offer in terms of the small local businesses, and realise, and being pleasantly surprised actually, and realising what we have got, and it being quite good actually.
Yeah, definitely. Right, we'll just wrap up now then. There's a last sort of couple of questions for you, just about sort of you personally really, and sort of a bit of advice for people who are sort of struggling at the minute. Is there anything out there that you've seen maybe around mental health or even physical health in the community that people can access?
Yeah, so there's a lot of small charities, and I wouldn't be able to name them all, but we're all aware of there being crisis helplines with Samaritans and those types of things for the bigger charities. I keep plugging it as much as I can, and I'm desperately trying to get the number now, and I'm disappointed every time that I can't memorise it yet, and I've just about managed to memorise my own mobile after a couple of years.
Well, it's okay if there's when we post this video up in the group, just any information, just comment underneath it. You know, if
I will do
that. Any
so,
links or anything like that, just
yeah,
post
so
them in there.
on the Spirit of Salford helpline, we've got a service that is, and it's sort of the gateway to it. We've got an adult mental health service that's been launched for the first time. And what that is basically is low-level counselling people for people that are struggling, who are probably finding it really difficult being either at home alone all the time, or being at home all the time with family that they may not get on with, or partners they may not get on with, or anything like that. And that just being a place that anyone can talk to, that you can talk to for whatever reason. And also for young people, for under 18s, there's a new service with online counselling that has been launched. It's called Cooth, and I'll put the details in.
Oh, that sounds brilliant, that.
Under the comments. But there are 2 new services that have been launched in response to this.
Yeah, so I think because this week especially has probably been the most difficult week for people, because the weather's changed. People have been indoors a lot more, and it's probably been very difficult for people to cope over the last couple of weeks. So any help in regards to people's mental or physical health, just if anybody out there who can just post things in the group to help people along, that would be a huge help. Going on to you personally, is there anything that you've done over the last 4 or 5 weeks personally? Have you started to like learn guitar? Have you been reading books? Is there any sort of new skills that you've been doing over the last couple of weeks?
Well, I've always said I'm really into gardening, and I am, and I like being outside and doing things. But I think more so over the next few weeks, because I've had a change in work, in that I'll have more time to do DIY. So maybe that'll be my next business opportunity.
Yeah, same here.
But
just moved into a new house, so DIY is top of the list for me. But it's difficult with kids around the house to try and get too many big projects done.
Well, we'll have to rope them into it.
It's been a pleasure speaking to you today, Lewis, and hopefully there's a couple of little nuggets that people can take from the conversation today. And any links or any information that you've got, just pop them in the group or in the comments when I post this video later on.
Awesome. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot, Lewis. Take care, mate.
Cheers.
See you later. Bye.